Hi boys and girls, today we're going to be glazing our pinch pots, and glazing just means we're going to paint it with a special kind of paint that when Mrs. Walker puts it in the kiln it'll get shiny like this one. And we're going to also be painting our medallions, okay? So on your table there will be, well, or else Mrs. Walker might actually ask you what color you want to paint yours, and then I will give you a little container of paint that's that color, okay? So I've decided I'm going to paint mine this beautiful mint kind of green, okay? And so I'm just going to use one of these, and I want to set up my little workstation, and you should have a paper towel at your space. If you don't, let me know, because we're going to work on a paper towel. And you're going to be painting all of your pinch pot. You're going to paint inside, you're going to paint the rim, you're going to paint the outside, but the one place I don't want you to paint is the bottom, okay? The part that's going to sit on the kiln shelf, we don't want to paint that, okay? And on this one, you can paint the whole thing, but don't paint inside that hole, because Mrs. Walker has to hang these on a little wire hook or a wire rod when they cook in the kiln, and if they have glaze in there, it'll get stuck and I won't be able to get it out. So glaze the front. You can even glaze the back. This person didn't glaze the back, but you can glaze the back. It'll be okay. All right, so I'm choosing green, and you'll also have on your table, there will be a tray on your table that has some brushes and a little sponge. This sponge is going to be important for before we finish. We're going to wipe off the bottoms. Okay, so you're going to take your brush, and my brush is kind of wet with water, so I'm just going to dry it off a little bit. And then I'm going to stir up my paint. Okay, and now it's ready. I'm going to paint a thin coat. So that means I just want to put a little thin coat everywhere, let it dry, and it only takes a few seconds to dry. I'm going to paint the outside edges. But am I going to paint right here on the bottom? Nope. I'm going to go right around that. I'm just going to paint the edges, or I guess you could call it the sides. I'm going to paint the sides, and then I'm going to set that. Oh, I missed a little spot in there. Try not to miss any spots. Check to make sure your brush got down into all the little spaces. I'm kind of wiggling it around, make sure it gets in there. I'm going to let that dry for a minute. While that's drying, the first coat, I'm going to paint the first coat on the front of this, and I'm trying to be careful not to get it near that hole. I'm going around the hole, but I don't want to go in the hole, right? Remember, we don't want it to go down in that little hole. And then when that's kind of dry, I'm going to flip it over. I think I'll get the edges here while I'm waiting for the top to dry. I'm going to paint the edges just to make sure they're done. All right, that's pretty wet for me to flip over, but this one, look, it's already dried. I can actually paint my second coat. So I'm going to go in with my second coat. Doesn't take very long to do this, does it? Nope. Don't forget to go inside a second time, down inside. And if you have a little crack or creases, be sure you get into those. Now you can see, look at Mrs. Walker's, I've got a drip here that's getting on the bottom. I'm going to be sure to use the sponge to wipe that off before I turn that in, because I don't want that to get stuck on the kiln shelf. But I'm going to let that layer dry, let that dry, and then I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to paint the back. Going next to the hole, but not down in the hole, right? I'm going to get the sides again, second coat on my edges, right here on the edges. And then, when that one's dry, I'll flip it over and do another coat on the other side. Do I need another coat on this one? Yes, I do, because I've only done two. So this is my third coat. Here I go, third coat, because it looks pretty dry. This dries very fast, doesn't it? Within seconds. Yep. Alright, I'm going to set it down and kind of go on this side, and then on this side. Now if you get it on your fingers, don't worry about it. You can always wipe them off when you're done. Or go, actually, probably what you should do, when you get all done and you put this on the table, then you can go wash your hands in the sink, okay? Because we don't have the buckets out today, because we don't want to get the tables all wet. I'm going to pick this up and do this side, because I think I need another coat over here. Let's see, I think I've done 2 on both sides of this, but I've done 3 on this. So I'm done with this one. I'm going to let it dry. This one I'm going to wait a minute till the back side and the front side are dry again, and I'll give it one more coat, and then I'm done. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, when you're done, be sure you put your brush back in that water dish to soak. And then before you bring this over, take the sponge, and you see how that's got a little bit of green right there? I'm going to wipe that off, just off the bottom part. And your sponge should be just slightly damp, so it should just wipe that part off that you need, just the bottom. Okay? Then you're going to bring both of these over to the table where Mrs. Walker has has a board for the kiln room. Okay, so we're going to put them on the clay cart on that board by the table. Okay,